roller coaster.
Here we go. Welcome back to SA Wine Weekly. I'm your host, Nathan Goad. Well, I've kind of been demoted this week to co-host because Holly Matheson has put her hand up and decided she's going to take over the show because I've been taking too long with the intros. So straight over to you, Holly.
Yes, you definitely talk a little bit too much, Nathan,
Right.
so thank you for that. So yeah, most of you probably know me as Wine Lover. But yeah, I've upgraded and now co-host. Oh no, host, I should say.
Oh, I'm the co-host.
Yeah, you're the co-host. Right. Host. Thanks,
Used to
Nathan.
be my show. Used to be my show, but not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. It's all me.
So I'm just the good-looking talent now.
Yes, correct.
Right. Anyway,
So we're super excited to be sitting here with Peter and Duncan Lloyd at Coriole. So we're just, super stoked. Thank you for coming on the show.
No, thanks for coming to us. We didn't really want to drive to wherever you were, so we thought we'd take the lazy road out. And,
Perfect.
thanks for coming.
Oh, how good's this spot?
Yeah,
absolutely
spring
beautiful.
evening.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
we are only at Christie's Beach though, so
Right.
I feel like I'm in Europe here, so
It looks absolutely beautiful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The backdrop,
oh,
a little bit
so
nicer
nice.
than the studio, but. So I've been getting a lot of grief from people about this show because I talk too much at the start.
Right.
So we're going to jump straight into a wine,
Okay.
and you're in charge
Easy.
tonight.
All right,
You're
no
pouring.
worries. Well,
Tell me what.
first wine up is a 2020 vintage, so pretty new. So a 2020 Picpoul.
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 So some of the viewers may not have heard of this variety before.
I think it's fair to say that probably 99.99% of the
Yeah.
world's population have never
I
heard of this
definitely
variety
haven't.
before.
So tell us about the variety.
So it's, I guess its native home is in southern France, and it's really a wine that just has beautiful delicacy and freshness. It grows in France along the coast, and where there's a lot of oysters grown as well. So it's sort of known as a great seafood oyster match. But yeah, we brought in the first cuttings about 10 years ago now. And
Wow. Is that first in Australia?
yes, yeah.
Wow.
So we rang up a mate who did vintage with us, I don't know, probably 15 years ago, and said, "Hey, T-Bo, can you go down to the local nursery and get some sticks for us?" So he did, and he wrapped them up in wet newspaper and put them in a bag and sent them across, express post, and which is illegal unless you notify customs that they're coming in. And so they
I'm
get-
glad you threw. I'm glad you threw
I
that
don't
in.
want to sort of, So anyway, that whole quarantine process takes a few years, and then it takes another 3 or 4 years to establish a vineyard that you can actually get some fruit from. So it's about a 8-year process of of a vineyard sitting there doing nothing when it could be growing perfectly good Shiraz. So there's a huge cost to doing it, but hopefully the outcome is positive, which with Picpoul definitely is.
I've got to say one thing though. We're not a wine tasting show. We're a wine drinking show. So the tide's a
We
bit
can
low.
manage that.
The tide's a bit low on the first pour.
I like to just.
It was up to Holly to
follow
tell you.
and-
You'll
I
learn,
know.
Duncan.
That was
You'll
my
learn.
mistake.
Novice,
Novice,
obviously.
but yeah.
So what are we meant to taste when we
I think
take a sip?
this is aromatically you just get some quite pretty florals. I get sort of some white jasmine flower and a kind of
Yeah,
almost like a
really
cypress
nice.
note and a bit of kind of lemon, lemon rind, lemon zest. So it's quite delicate, and that's sort of the real charm of it, I guess.
Which was important because the one we'll try after Fiano is another wine variety that was started by our father here in Australia. But that's much different, much more texture, much richer. Whereas, something like Picpoul is fantastic, especially for an Australian lifestyle where we're used to eating oysters, or some of us are, apart from yourself. But, oysters, shellfish, delicate foods, it works
Oh,
really,
we've got
really
a
well.
question.
Oh,
Oh, Debbie Matheson, is it nice,
Nice, Holly.
Holly? Would love to taste this one. I'll let you know right now.
Well, no pressure.
you'll get used
Yeah,
to this.
is it nice?
Yeah, it's really nice.
What did you screw
It's really,
your face out?
I was joking.
Oh, luckily.
It's called a joke, Nathan.
Okay.
No, it's really nice. It's really easy to drink.
It's got a
And it's
different
not-
aroma though, hasn't it? It's,
Yeah, it's got this nice mix of savoury and fruity,
Yeah.
which is really lovely. The reason that we or that our family were interested in it, is that probably the majority of this production is actually sold in the UK. Okay. The appellation in the south of France is called Picpoul de Pinet, and a lot of it ends up in the UK, where it's really a pretty cheap wine. So if you go into a standard bistro or something in the UK and you've got a wine list, and this might be there at £3 or £4 a glass.
Not the Coriole Picpoul.
No, of course.
Just comment out the sort of French versions.
So it'll often be that sort of entry level wine, but you'll go up and there might be white Burgundy, there might be a white Rioja, there might be whatever at 3 or 4 times the price. But for us, this just had great reliability and it had that underdog status. It was like, hold on, this is actually a really lovely wine, really nice. and it deserves higher respect than probably it's given, and so that's why we got excited about it, to give it a bit of a chance, I guess.
Oh, another question, Sal. Evening, guys. Interesting wine to start the night off with. I haven't heard of it, but so interested. Delicate.
Yeah, and I guess
that's a good word for it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a key part of this variety as well. It's interesting, it's the last white that we pick. So normally we'll start off with some Chenin Blanc and then move into Fiano, and you start with your whites and then you will start getting into sort of reds, into Shiraz. And usually we've started to pick some of the reds and then the Picpoul comes in.
So it's on the vine longer?
It's on the vine a bit longer.
Why?
Look, I think it's just the natural variety. It tends to ripen a bit later. It does need a bit of work in the vineyard. It will throw a lot of bunches if you let it. So it needs to be, we need to go through and do bunch thinning every season and shoot thinning. But also where we get it is a pretty low Beaumet. So if you're thinking about your sugar ripeness and therefore your alcohol in your wine. So we usually get this at around sort of 11.5, 11.8 Beaumet. So that's why we end up with around that, 11.8 to 12% alcohol. I think this was 12.1 from memory to 12 this year. So a reasonably low alcohol, and I guess that's also a nice thing about it. And so it's just fresh, delicate.
It's not very sweet. Kind of surprised me. So low sugar.
Yeah, very dry, and you get that kind of almost a saline character and a minerality. In the wine as well, so I guess that's why it works
so well with oysters.
Yeah,
oysters,
which we bought especially for you.
Did you?
You love oysters.
I love oysters. Someone's got to talk while everybody else eats. That's what we're going to talk. So don't forget, this show is live and interactive. So if you want to ask some questions, you got a chance to win this amazing wine, and you got the winemakers here, winemaker, marketing extraordinaire as well, and Holly. Probably don't ask Holly a question, but ask the boys a question, and you could win this great bottle of wine. So, what about some of the history of the winery? People love to hear about the history of the winery.
I mean, there's been significant things happening on this site for 30, 40,000 years, of course, and in terms of European history, it really starts around 1840. When these sections of land were made available for purchase. And often they're actually sold to someone that was at that point in the UK. They weren't actually here.
Yeah.
And we think that's probably what happened initially. And so about 1860 is when the first, interventions happened on this property in terms of these buildings that you can see here were built in 1860.
1860.
Yeah, and the mulberry tree out the front, which you guys can't see, but you can. And down the bottom of the hill, we think now actually our oldest vineyard was probably planted around that point as well. So that's, if South Australia was settled in 1836, I think. So not long after, there was agriculture here, and it would have taken the form of some vineyard, probably some cattle, maybe some wheat, and various other fruit trees and so forth. And that sort of went on like that for almost a century, until my grandparents, our grandparents, bought the property in 1967. At that point, it was called Chateau Bon Santé, and it was being run by a Polish guy who was making natural wine. So he was well ahead of his time. And he was biodynamic, and the one bottle we found looks pretty horrific, so we've never actually tried it. But it's I guess the foundation was there at that point of a small scale winery. And in the 60s, it really became late 60s when our grandparents came on board. That's when it really grew into the sort of, it wasn't like, all right, let's go, let's create a massive winery. It was, here's this beautiful property. We really enjoy and appreciate fine wine, and we will endeavour to make the best that we can. And look, it's been a 50-year journey so far, and it's by no means complete. You know, it's every year, every vintage, it's how can we do things better? What possibilities are here for us to explore? So
you both just kind of fell into the business?
I guess a little bit. I mean, we both grew up here on the property, so I guess, you know, that's always hard to ignore.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have wider family involved in the business as well. But it was really a big part of our upbringing. And, you know, I guess we were always encouraged to go and, you know, explore other things and, you know, decide what we wanted to do. But I guess it's probably no big surprise that we both ended up back here.
yeah, but that was after both spending sort of 15 years away doing other things. And,
All right, what did we do?
I went and I got really interested in bread making. And so I
Bread
lived in-
making?
Yeah, lived in
Wow.
various parts of France.
That goes
making-
nice with wine.
Making bread. And then realised what a horrific, you know, sort of life that was, trying to be a baker.
Yeah.
And
So no one told you that at the start, or you
Well,
didn't
you're young, you think, you know.
well, when you realise how socially ill-adjusted all the people that you're working with are, you think, well, maybe actually there's a better solution here. Which, you know, then I got involved in other things, cider making, and then various other things, and eventually found my way back to wine organically. But that process took 15 years.
Yeah. So the oysters paired with the wine.
Yep.
Now, why seafood?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think you in this wine, it's probably a lot to do with about the kind of minerality, the kind of the delicacy. I guess in this situation, you're probably really looking for things like oysters or quite, you know, delicate whitefish, kind of simple seafood.
Especially in summer, just like the freshness.
Yeah, and that to get that real, I mean, oysters all about the hit of the sea, and the Picpoul kind of mirrors that as well. It's got that, you know, saline.
I mean, the
quality.
simplest way to, you know, you can sit in seminars that go for weeks that talk about food and wine matching, but the simplest, I guess the key is that it's like with like.
Yep.
And so that if you have a wine that shows this sort of sea spray salty character, well, then what's the perfect accompaniment is something like an oyster.
Right.
And that's a very simple, massive generalisation, but because the field of food and wine matching is so fraught with, you know, this might go with that, it might go, oh no, don't do asparagus, don't do broccoli, whatever.
Yep.
When you're trying to just make things simple, like with like is sort of the
All right. So I'm interested, Holly, to
I
hear.
forgot to take my oyster.
right.
I know, usually I'm first.
Ladies first. I'm interested. Have a taste of the wine. Have some oyster, then have a taste afterward, and let the layman know what the difference is. Oh, we've got another question. Are there certain French varieties that thrive in South Australia?
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty kind of open-ended question.
Yeah.
Going for the oyster.
Yeah. Go for the
I
oyster.
think I need a fork.
Here's
Use
your-
my fingers.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So
I guess-
they do. Obviously, you said that
certainly there are.
Yeah. takes a bit of effort, though. You said.
Well, if you look at our history, and it's probably a good experience to examine in that, you know, back in the 80s and the 70s, if you go into our cellars, you'll see a lot of French varieties, things like Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet Franc, which have all been planted here at some point, Riesling even. And, but, you know, that wasn't that long ago. But we look at it now and we think, God, what were we thinking? Like, those varieties are so ill-suited to this region.
Yeah.
Region.
But, you know, that just shows how far education has come and the general understanding of viticulture. And so now, typically, if we're looking for good fits for, this is McLaren Vale specifically, we'll be looking to the south of France or
Yeah.
to the south of Italy. There are other anomalies that exist for various reasons, but yeah, there's certain varieties that it would be very hard for us to go with full force and produce Riesling and Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, for example, with full confidence in McLaren Vale. So our attention certainly shifts.
Do we have a similar climate? to France.
Well, if you think about France, definitely the south of France, or areas of Languedoc, Provence, into the sort of southern Rhone Valley. Is so Grenache, Mourvèdre, Cinsault, Carignan, Grenache Blanc, Picpoul. They're the varieties that I guess are probably the well suited to it.
And
So, excellent question. Don't forget that we got the winemaker here. Ask the questions for your chance to win a bottle of wine. What do we think?
It's delicious.
Delicious?
Kind of complemented.
Perfect
the wine.
pairing?
Perfect. Yeah.
So the wine was
really,
better
really nice.
after the oyster?
I think it just yes.
Or was
Definitely.
the oyster better after the wine?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of oysters. But actually, it worked. Like it was really nice.
Well,
Excellent.
that's, you
It
know,
was really,
come,
really
come
nice.
on, boys. You're going to have your oyster as well?
Yeah,
Yeah,
would
I've
you
already-
mind
I've already
passing
finished
the
my
oysters,
wine.
Ollie? I'll have.
Yeah, you've already finished yours?
Yeah.
I've been savouring mine because the tide was low. So I'm just savouring as much as I can.
Be a hole
Yeah.
underneath the table.
Maybe, maybe not. But do we have a winner over there, guys? A winner for this wine? Because we're going to move on to the next one shortly. The winner of the wine,
oh,
Nicholas Milch. Was a great question.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great question.
Sorry, I probably.
No, it was a good
No.
question.
But, yeah.
Excellent. Well done, Nick. And we'll be sure to bring the bottle up when we head up to the Riverland. Nick lives in the Riverland.
Aww.
So we're heading up to the Riverland to do a 4-part series.
wow.
So we're going to do 2 wineries, a cafe,
Okay.
a wine show doing a cafe.
Yep.
But they've got some nice wines, and they also do a coffee liqueur, and they also use their coffee in the Woolshed Brewery for their coffee stout.
Okay.
Is the Woolshed Brewery the one right on the
Yeah, right on the river.
river? Yeah.
Yep. So
that's
we're
We stopped there.
heading up there for an alcoholic lemonade
Yep.
and some beers, and
And
then
you'll be taking the oysters. You'll be taking
well,
the Picpoul.
Holly will be taking the oysters, but
I will be.
so yeah, keep tuned for that. So you guys finished your oysters?
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
still
Gonna
going. Yeah, I'm gonna
steal
finish
one
the
more,
whole
Holly.
I'm good, thank you.
No, you're good.
That was hard enough.
Right, so we'll
nice, but
move on to wine 2, which is
So, I guess another 2020 wine, and we have our Fiano. 2 whites and a red, which is, I guess, another interesting point from, McLaren, our producer, that we're really looking at whites that, suit this region and the different styles that we can produce by using these sort of different varieties.
yeah.
So we're in southern France with the Picpoul, and now we're kind of, I guess, into southern Italy, around sort of Campania, Naples region with the Fiano.
Which is a disaster with oysters.
Yeah.
Do you know what was really funny though? Last week we did an Italian restaurant across the road from where we work, and he brought out a Fiano. Was it a Greco
it was a
Fiano?
mixture. Yeah, Greco.
yeah, from
Greco
Campania.
Fiano.
Yeah, and we'd never heard
never
it.
tried it before.
Well, we never heard of that. I'd heard of Fiano, but
Yeah.
Greco.
the Greco, and it was actually a cracking wine.
Yeah, it's
It was a
Is this an easy grape to grow?
Yes.
yeah.
Compared to Picpoul, it's a
Yeah.
godsend.
Yeah.
It's Picpoul and Fiano, they're chalk and cheese in some ways. Obviously, stylistically, they're such different wines. Hence, like that Fiano with an oyster, you just wouldn't even go there. It just doesn't make any sense. It's too rich. It's too textured. But in viticulturally, Fiano's kind of what it's what you pray for and hope for in a variety. It just grows up along the wire. The bunches are quite loose and open, and the berries themselves are quite thick-skinned. So it means there's very little disease pressure, and
That's interesting.
And it's an ancient variety. It has documented history going back over 2,000 years. It almost went out of production, and a couple of producers in Campania resurrected it. And that's when we jumped on board, just as they were sort of getting it going, and got it going in Australia. So,
And how well does it go in Australia? Other people around McLaren Vale, Selix Hill, I know they do a Fiano as well.
well, most of
quite
our
a good one.
neighbours have it in the ground now.
Yeah.
And that's all you can ask for. If you bring a variety in, that if it has that kind of ability to be an interesting wine, stylistically, good to grow, and easy to pronounce. You've got to remember that.
Yeah, that's my favourite wine. One that's easy to pronounce.
Smells like it's got a lot of character.
And but if you see your neighbours planting it or grape growers planting it in the region, then it means that it's actually got some gravitas. It's got some potential. And so now I think the biggest white wine class that the McLaren Vale show is Fiano.
Wow.
Whereas 20 years ago it was probably Chardonnay.
So, what about making it?
Yeah, so
Is it difficult? Does it need a lot of love, or?
Oh, look, we treat it differently. I mean, the Picpoul is just a very kind of standard stainless steel cool fermentation, whereas Fiano happens over about we got sort of 4 different blocks, I guess.
Okay.
So we kind of pick them separately, and we get looking for kind of different levels of ripeness, I guess, within the fruit to sort of see different characters. If you pick it a little bit earlier at a lower Beaumet, you might get a bit more. A bit more sort of florals and sort of lift to the wine. And you pick it a bit riper, you move into those sort of more stone fruits, some sort of peach and kind of apricot characters.
And how much does that sell for?
27?
27?
28, yeah.
Wow.
28. Always
Not
go.
my-
Always go to the winemaker for
Not
the
my
price.
department at all.
Not marketing.
But
Here we go.
Oh,
Velvet. Love the Fiano. Looking forward to trying the new vintage. Well, she might have to wait just a little while, won't she?
Yeah, she'd be familiar with the Fiano, but yeah, it's looking awesome, the 2020. And I guess with this one as well, we do a bit of barrel fermentation. So it's about 30% is fermented in French oak.
Yep.
Most of it's actually in one sort of large 3,000 litre cask. And so it's really just not looking for big oak character in the wine, but it's just really looking to build on the texture and the weight. And I guess Pete mentioned earlier that the thicker skins that Fiano have.
Yep.
And we sort of use that as well to our in our favour, and we want to kind of extract it as much as we can out of the skins. That's where all the flavour is, and the texture and the phenolics with any grape. So we kind of like to work with that and get a bit more richness.
So as far as white wines go, do you like making it?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
Yeah?
it's a really.
Does it show off your wine making skills?
Yeah, it's a bit more.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a bit more. The Picpoul's great, but it's all about just that fine line delicacy.
The Picpoul's great because no one else has got it.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
it's pretty easy.
So what do
really.
you do?
You can
They
say
want-
it's the
they
hardest
wanna
wine.
try it.
It's the hardest wine in the world to make. No one else has got it. So
and food pairing wise, what would you recommend?
Well, this is an
Yeah,
interesting one. Like if you think about the country inland from Naples, which is where Fiano typically originates from, it's also the home of buffalo mozzarella, mozzarella di bufala or burrata. So that heft and that weight of that wine can handle quite rich, creamy cheeses. We've got a goat's curd here that my auntie actually makes, which is not it's not buffalo, but it's goat, so it still has lovely richness and intensity and full flavour.
Was that with the olive oil?
Yeah, so we serve this with our olive oil
cool.
drizzled over the top. That's the 2020, so just released. Sort of new
so Coriole.
Do you make that here?
We'll just mention that again. Coriole olive oil. Nice plug, guys. Good work.
So this is from McLaren Vale and Adelaide Hills olives, and provides a nice pungency to go with the cheese. But look, a relatively rich, creamy white cheese is excellent. The other great thing with Fiano is pork. I mean, I don't even like pork, but when I drink this wine, I often crave pork belly. I crave the richness and the fattiness of pork. It can really handle quite rich flavours.
So I guess it's got some texture,
olive
but it's
oil.
got
Yeah.
bright
Yeah.
acidity as well.
Yeah. And what would you choose if you were, let's say you're cracking this at a just after lunch at a barbecue at your house? What?
Yeah, I mean, we do a kind of weekly roast chicken at home.
Okay.
So for me, it works pretty well with that. With some, roasted olives and bread and stuff all roasted all together. Chicken that always works pretty well.
Bread that your brother baked?
I wish. No.
No.
Can't afford it.
Oh, fair enough. So don't forget, guys, that we are live and interactive. If you want to win these amazing wines, or if you don't comment, Holly and I will keep them and drink them because they are delicious, aren't they?
So, and with that goat's cheese.
I'm gonna
and the
have a
olive
bit.
oil.
So
get into that.
you're gonna have to take over, Holly, and
So nice. I don't
So-
eat it all.
ask the boys a couple of questions about. Their brother.
Oh, yeah. See the smart one?
My brother.
The oldest.
So there's 3 brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a very intelligent human being, but he lives in Wales, where I was speaking to him last night, and they've just been in the midst of a heat wave. So it's been over 22 degrees for 3 days in a row.
Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, no.
So it's technically a heat wave. And they went swimming for the first time in the season, and he thinks his beans might ripen in his greenhouse. But yeah, no, he left a long time ago, and he's not involved in the wine industry. But
And let's get on to Dad a little bit, because Dad is well known in the wine industry for, I guess, what I know him for is bringing the Italian varieties that grow so well in McLaren Vale to McLaren Vale. He was kind of a pioneer, wasn't he, in bringing them here?
yeah.
And you think that's his legacy of?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, if you go, but like I mentioned before, you go back to the 80s and your opportunities were French. If you
Yeah.
were looking for varietal possibilities in the region. And he's got a pretty expansive mind. It's a highly distracted mind. And, but he's achieved amazing things in terms of, just because something didn't exist well doesn't mean that it should. Or just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. So, and that flows through every part of Coriole. And so,
I've got a question.
Okay, go for it.
Chelsea Matheson, how long can you store this wine?
Great
Good
question. Great question.
Very great question.
Yeah, well, I guess we've, something we've been looking at a bit more recently now that we've got probably 15 vintages of Fiano. So started to look at it, but it does. I mean, it's got great natural acidity, so it will cellar well, and I think that's important to know. And to a lot of our whites will still cellar well. I think probably after that sort of 3 to 5 year period, you'll start to get a little bit more kind of waxiness and sort of tertiary characters coming through, but it'll still be a really beautiful drinking wine. So,
but it doesn't develop the kind of a lot of the oiliness of say Riesling or flabbiness of Chardonnay. So it's got a lot of extract.
And flabbiness of Chardonnay.
Yeah, if you look at a Chardonnay that's 10 years old,
Yeah.
for example, it can come across as a little flabby. I mean, maybe not so much these days, but with the new style of Chardonnay. But no, we've been pretty impressed. With a highly phenolic variety, which is Fiano, your immediate thoughts are, it's not going to age that well. But I think the natural acidity really works to
What about the
preserve
colour? The colour going to change much with age?
it. Yeah, it really goldens
Yeah,
off.
or golden off a lot?
Yeah.
So you're saying, we've got a saying on SA Wine Weekly that there's no point cellaring wine unless you actually taste it straight away as well. And you got to buy at least a 6-pack. You've got to have a couple straight away when they're fresh.
Yep.
You have a couple after the maybe 2 or 3 year mark.
Yep.
And then you've got something to weigh it up against. So there's no point buying one bottle and drinking and go, that'll sell it well.
yeah.
So we're encouraging people
To purchase.
yeah, to purchase. Not that we're encouraging them to drink unresponsibly, but we're
So stretch it out over 12 years.
yeah, and then they can have their own opinion of it too. Oh, another question. Tony McGuinness. I've noticed around the Vale area that a lot of vineyards have olive trees around the boundaries. Right.
Yeah, I guess there's probably no.
Well, there's 2 reasons. One is commercial opportunity, and one is feral olives. So we have on our western boundary here, we have olive trees surrounding our vineyard, and that's really for the commercial possibilities of those olive trees have been planted for the commercial opportunities those trees bring. But then on our eastern boundary here, up along Chaffee's Road, there's olive trees along the whole road, but they're just wild-grown olive trees that really have no commercial advantage for us.
So Tony was thinking maybe it was because there's a bit of a windbreak for the vines.
No.
No.
I mean,
they're
they
too
might
slow
be.
growing. They're not. You wouldn't. If you were using a windbreak, you'd use something else.
Yeah. So no, Tony, you're right.
They could be.
Sorry.
They could be used as a windbreak.
They could be used. Oh, Nick's back. I've just read that this wine survives increasing heat spikes and requires lower water.
Spot on.
Yep.
Economical.
Yeah, it does very well. We all know in this part of the world we have some extreme days over
As we do,
that kind
yeah.
of February period, and yeah, it's definitely a variety. We look for varieties that will survive those extremes as well. And again, I think that comes down to that thick skin. Its native home is in that southern Italy where they'll have similar,
I mean, it can snow in winter in that part of the world, but it can also be 40 degrees in summer.
Yeah.
So it's,
And you said 15 vintages you've been doing Fiano for?
Yeah.
Around.
Oh, we have a winner.
A winner. Tony.
Congratulations,
He was wrong, but
Tony.
he won.
I'm jealous.
He's wrong, but he won. You don't have to be right to win on this show. You just got to participate.
That's very true.
No, that's Tony's participation
well done,
award.
Tony.
Good work, Tony. he will love it. Tony's lad. It's actually his. He's the grandpa, so it's his grandson. He's over in Poland racing speedway. He's from McLaren Vale.
yeah, right.
He's over. He's one of the best in the world, and he's got a Polish speedway in Poland. This is a useless but interesting fact
Yep.
that you get on SA Wine.
Nice
Nothing to do with
segue.
wine. Nothing to do with wine, but he is. I think he's about number 3 or 4 in the world, and he's local McLaren Vale lad.
Okay.
And battled really hard. Very few sponsors. He's over there. He's dominating. So shout out, and I want to say too, great work to Tony because he has battled extremely hard in ill health to get Braden over there. So good on you, Tony, and best of luck, Braden. Fly the flag for Australia and McLaren Vale. Number one sport in Poland is speedway.
is it really?
2 million people watch their races on YouTube. Wow. So you learn something on this show.
There you go.
We're teaching winemakers things
fact.
on this show.
And things.
Nothing about
Yeah, that's
wine.
right.
Bet they don't play cricket.
But, well, no, probably not. Hang on though, Ireland do.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe soon. I think anybody's playing cricket anymore, are they?
Definitely not me.
No,
No.
as far as Channel 7 are
No,
concerned,
it's
they're
good
not.
at cricket.
Okay, so great wine. Great wine. My question before I was really interrupted by Tony was 15 years you've been making it for. Mm-hmm. What is your favourite?
Vintage.
Yeah.
Oh.
A Fiano. No,
It's right in front of you, Duncan.
Yeah, that's right.
It's right in front of you.
No, I think look, it might sound a bit cliche, but I think this 2020 is pretty banging
Excellent.
on. But it has been a development of style, and I guess learning about the variety. Probably early days, it was treating it a bit more sort of simply in the winery. Probably getting
Picking a little earlier.
kind of clean, just sort of fresher, higher acid wines.
so you reckon the winemaking got better?
Yeah,
You've got better at it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
But
I
you
think
need
that's
15
fair to say.
years to learn.
Yeah.
Ah, for sure.
Understand, exactly what it, and for the the vineyards to mature,
Yeah, okay.
and to really nail down some of the viticulture as well. It's pretty low yielding. I mean, for a white, we probably get similar yields to our Shiraz.
Okay.
That's why it almost went out of production in south of Italy.
Yeah.
Because it was quite a shy cropper. And so if you were a grower in the southern Italy and you could get Fiano at 3 tons to the acre, but you could get some sort of Trebbiano or some other variety that would return 10 tons to the acre, that's what you planted.
Economics, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's right.
But I guess in this part of the world, we're dealing with the higher end
quality
of
production.
high quality wines, and so that's.
Well, definitely a Coriole we are, aren't we?
And where can we purchase this?
Cellar
Celador.
Probably the
Oh,
best
yeah, I'll be in.
best spot,
Now that
I'd
I'm
say.
local.
Come and visit us. It's you see a bit of it today, but it's always a shame when people visit here at night because it's so beautiful during the day.
Yeah.
So
It's not bad at night. I mean,
yeah.
It's pretty spectacular during the day, though, isn't it?
Oh, so beautiful. The gardens.
And the socials run extremely well, I must say. The socials,
Oh, yeah.
and thanks heaps for
business.
boosting business and
Yeah.
very, very visible. I'd say very visible, great quality as well. So the website, obviously, you can purchase your wine on there, and we've got a wine club as well.
Yep.
Yep.
The collective, which is 3 deliveries a year, it's exceptional value. And, it's times like this in the last 6 months that the fact that we've been engaging with our customers online for probably 15 years, it's not new for us.
Yeah.
And so we've been really well placed, and it's been great to sort of see the response to with our customers all around Australia, and to be able to directly engage with them. Whereas if you didn't have that existing, you were trying to learn how to sell to people and how to engage with people. So it's been fantastic to, we probably jumped on that pretty early, and we did
Yeah.
jump on that pretty early, and the last 6 months.
And the support from locals and
It's been great.
customer
Like, it's
base
been
as well.
phenomenal. And
But they've been at home, not been able to do much more, have they? So
yeah, well,
wine consumption's gone
Victorian
up.
orders have certainly spiked
Yes,
over the
wow.
last few months, but no, like really, if if you make wine and you can sell it direct to the people that consume it, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And the last 6 months have been phenomenal from that point of view. Wine going to every part of Australia.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't
It's
it?
great.
The support, and pretty much everyone we've spoken to too has said thanks for that as well.
Yeah.
Because the locals, Australians, have really supported the wineries, not just because they've been locked at home and not been able to do anything else, but it's also really helped some of the smaller ones thrive. And like you said, the early adopters of being online have really reaped the benefits of it. All right, so Fiano, we forgot to do our rating.
Just 5 stars, guys.
5 stars.
Yeah, I would honestly.
10
I would
glasses.
Be
I don't know.
5 stars.
What's your?
very
Well, we
close
are
to
out of
5.
5, aren't we?
We're
Let's qualify that.
I reckon after 15 years, if you haven't, you've got it pretty much
Yeah.
right, I reckon, now.
Yeah.
Not saying you didn't before, but
Well, I guess the thing with Fiano is you pick it too early, it looks a bit like Sauvignon Blanc, and it's really high acid.
yeah.
You pick it too late, and it's really fat and blousy, and whereas it's
Flabby.
finding that
Flabby.
Yep.
I like that word. It's like
Yeah, it's a
my.
good
finding
one.
that midpoint,
I don't like flabby.
which takes it takes a lot of work. So, but we want it. I mean, it's got to be a rich white wine. We're a Mediterranean region,
Yeah.
so there's no shame in having a white wine that's rich and full-bodied in texture.
What else would we pair with it? I know we said the cheeses, but
Yeah, there's a
traditional things that white would go with, obviously the
Yeah, so roast pork is excellent. Pork
Yeah.
belly is excellent. Anything with quite a lot of fat
Like
works
a
really well.
creamy carbonara.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That would
with
work.
pork.
Yeah, definitely.
With pork,
With
no.
pork. That'd be great.
Carbonara has
Vegetarian.
pork, doesn't it? Oh, sorry.
Carbonara.
It's just-
Pescatarian.
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 Well, I mean, if you were
Pescatarian.
going fish, you'd probably go for richer, fuller flavoured fish. Red mullet would be great.
Yeah.
A trout or
Like coral
probably
trout or
well.
something, that'd be nice. wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
richer flavoured fish. I mean, if it was whiting, it would be a disaster. It'd just completely overwhelm it. So
Yeah, that's where
Yeah.
the Picpoul goes with those more delicate.
Cool. I'm extremely impressed with this
Yeah,
wine.
me too.
And I've got some friends and that are watching overseas, and they say to me, every time you go on the show, no matter what wine you've got on, you're always complimentary. But they're in America. They don't know. They haven't been to McLaren Vale. They don't know that there's no such
Well,
thing
it'd be
as.
a bit awkward otherwise, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
Well,
Lloyd, this is awful, mate.
we do the odd show where there's no winemaker.
Say what you really think.
No, it's excellent. And we do say what we think anyway. But
Yeah.
it's just different variants of good in McLaren Vale, though. We're very, very
Yeah.
spoiled.
Yeah, I think that's what this region does very well, and I think you go back to that fact that a lot of people had Shiraz and Cabernet and Grenache, and that's just what existed. So that's what people did. But I think there's a lot of people doing this really. There's no reason why we can't try all these different varieties.
Speaking about trying different varieties, what are we going to move on to?
Shiraz.
Shiraz.
Yep. So here we are, 2018 estate Shiraz. I think I change it up every time.
It's like Lego and Lego.
I need a new glass.
Yeah.
Apparently, South Australians are the only people that say Lego.
Lego.
Oh, we're
Lego.
right. We're right though.
Yeah.
We're quite often.
Well, my wife's from Victoria and she tells me I'm wrong.
Well, you,
My wife's from New South Wales, so we didn't do very well there, did
my
we?
wife's from South Australia, and I'm still wrong. So.
So 2018 estate Shiraz. So I guess this is a real,
Before you go, because you know what you're talking about, obviously, because you made it. But Holly, let's hear from you about what do you, well, you haven't said much.
Because you talk too much.
Yeah, well, okay, true. Come on, tell us. What do you smell? It's got a distinct smell to it.
It does. I can't work it out.
You can't work it
No,
out.
it
Well,
smells
just make
different
it up.
to-
You're not
Does
going
it
to be
smell
right.
like Shiraz? perhaps?
Yeah, a little bit. It smells a little
But
bit.
it's got a
Shiraz.
different
You know what it smells
scent.
like?
It
Red
kind
wine.
of smells like red wine. No, it's got a kind of like a different. Got
It's almost smoky. Smoky.
Smoky.
So if I had
Smoky.
said
I
like,
don't really get the smoky.
That's the oak you can smell. Right?
if I said ferrous, ironstone, would that like licking a bit of iron? It's a strange thing.
Yeah, I kind of get that.
It's the
I
kind
mean,
of a-
it's just the classic thing that we see in Shiraz from here, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I've taken over. But
No, we needed someone to answer.
this mixture of savoury and sweet, so a lot of mulberry fruit, red and black fruit, but then also a really ferrous ironstone-like character.
Yeah, it's got a distinct. I would say even a little bit different than the normal McLaren Vale Shiraz smell.
Yeah.
I mean, the viewers won't be able to see, but if you look at this wall over here, our old cellar door has that sort of red ironstone.
Yeah.
So
Well, hang on, the viewers might be able
or
to see.
maybe, yeah. Well, it might.
If Aiden's on to switch the... Oh, look at that.
Yeah, there we go. Bang on.
Looks like a pole
So
with
that's, I guess,
unit on it,
the sort of stone that's in the vineyard, I guess, and that's, I guess, responsible for the sort of character that we see often in our Shiraz off this site.
So we got a question from Sarah. She's been to your cellar door, fair trip from Renmark, a few times, and it's so quaint. Well done, guys. Well done.
It's a beautiful building.
It is a beautiful build. And when was it built?
1860.
Wow.
I was asking Holly, but she wasn't listening.
I knew that.
So she loves it.
Research.
Has she dreamt it? Did you ever do a sticky?
Yeah, we did it's a wine called Mistel, which is it's a process rather than actual wine of producing you essentially make you fortify a white wine during the process of fermentation, so that you
Fortify a white wine.
so that you retain, so you arrest the fermentation and you retain some residual sugar. So it was 2013, I think we made that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then sort of barrel aged, and I think I was meant to make some this year, but we didn't quite get around to it. So I think next year it's definitely on the list of things.
So that's a SA Wine Weekly first. Next year it's back.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
yes.
sticky's back. All right.
Yes. No, I was going to say, I've been thinking about it. And it hasn't got that bitterness like most Shirazes that I try. It's like very kind of smooth. It hasn't got that like tannin.
Yeah, I mean the
flavour.
tannin is very well integrated, and it's supreme winemaking ability here that manages to craft.
It's not what you said when you were late.
It's the nicest thing he's ever said to me.
On camera he's nice.
But tannin management is really key with Shiraz, and especially in this site where we get very small berries. So it's very concentrated fruit that we're dealing with. And so that kind of it's very much a hands-off approach, because if you really work this wine during the fermentation, it is quite bitter, or it has the potential to be. And so to have that ability as a winemaker to just be hands-off, which is actually is harder than you think.
Yeah.
But just to respond to the fruit year in, year out, depending on the season, is hard, because you typically want to intervene because that's your job. But yeah, look, this wine, the 18, is just a supreme example of just beautiful suppleness and richness of texture. Without
Very, very easy to drink.
Very easy.
I'm going to put it in the dangerous category. Yep.
Very dangerous.
We got a question here. I think this is what a great question. What would you say your flagship is?
Well, I guess our...
Well, let's go. Obviously, top of the range is always flagship for marketing. But what's your favourite? What do you think your winemaking skills come out the most in? And then we'll go the marketing and dollars flagship.
All right. Okay, we'll have two different answers there.
Yeah.
Look, Sangiovese.
Wow.
If I'm just going to throw that out there for us.
Holly's eyes just
It's
lit up.
a really important red wine, for us, and I guess that's it all. The Shiraz speaks a lot about our history, but the Sangiovese sort of defines a lot of what Coriole is about. It was sort of the first other variety, I guess, that was really introduced by our father in 1985. Is our oldest vineyard, and it's now it's one of our sort of best sellers, and it's really about producing a slightly more mid-weight wine from McLaren Vale, but was still with great presence and fruit and beautiful kind of savoury tannins.
So this was the first one Dad introduced.
Yeah.
Yeah. How risky was that? Yeah.
Well, I'm glad
It was a
I
gamble,
wasn't the
wasn't it?
sales and marketing person, because
You would never got it through.
well, yeah, like in the 80s, he used to walk down the street with this because it is so medium-bodied
Yeah.
and light and savoury. It was unlike anything Australian people had drunk before. And there wasn't the reference point. Italian wine in the 80s wasn't cool. It wasn't high quality, not like now.
No.
Italian dining wasn't cool. It was cheap and cheerful.
Yeah.
And so you walk down Rundle Street or Burke Street or whatever state you were in, and you had your Sangiovese in one bottle and Shiraz in the other. And they'd say, Mark, I love your Shiraz. This Sangiovese, ugh, God, what is it? It's like got water in it. There was people didn't understand.
Yeah.
And that's been, over 30 years now of experimenting with clone, with site.
Ooh.
And,
Got a question?
well, I think we know the answer to that. It's right in front of us.
Sangiovese.
Sangiovese. Well timed.
Do you reckon he knew
Wayne
that?
Cox.
Do you reckon he knew that?
Yeah, I think that.
I reckon Wayne was here. Bad luck, Wayne. It's not up for grabs, but great question anyway. So lamb.
Lamb and Sangiovese is a
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah, that's
Bright acidity really helps with that sort of fat and great savoury tannins. So that's a rich meat.
What about for vegetarians?
I just don't drink it.
Just don't drink it.
Eggplant.
Eggplant.
Yeah.
Vegetable
that could
stack.
work.
What about eggplant
stack,
moussaka?
veggie
What about
palmy?
moussaka?
I think
Oh, I
eggplant
like
would work
moussaka.
pretty well. I mean, you need something
Yeah.
rich and earthy, but ideally cooked in a lot of olive oil.
Yeah.
Something
Made
with a
lot
high
of, like,
fat content.
Pasta.
So cooked in a
olive
lot of
oil, garlic.
Coriole olive oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll get that. I'll get that.
And where do I
at least
purchase
one
the
more
olive
time.
oil? Is that through here as well?
Cellar door,
or
yep.
Cellar door? Yep.
And online.
Perfect.
But you can see that wine is such a different shape to the
Oh yeah.
Oh,
feeling.
completely
I mean, the
different.
Shiraz is so plush and soft, whereas this is quite savoury and textured. We're only allowed to have 3 wines, but we didn't.
No,
have
we never stick to what we're
we
supposed
brought
to
it
anyway,
out,
so don't
and,
worry about it.
But it's
We've got one other one waiting in the wings too.
Reese, Coriole has the first one I ever visited in McLaren Vale. Fantastic wine and awesome venue. The reds are particularly good.
What is Reese doing on his picture?
I don't think that's actually Reese.
Is that Reese? I don't know.
Might
Who
be.
knows?
Cameron.
Good red wine, big flabby.
I wonder who that question's
Yes.
for.
Certainly
I'm
can.
going to use that word now. I've got punchy and flabby. Like my two,
Yeah,
my
Holly's
two words.
word
yeah.
for last week was
Yeah.
a punchy wine.
Yeah.
Punchy wine.
Well, tannin and acid can prevent a wine from being flabby. So Sangiovese is almost the antithesis, the opposite of flabby, because it's high in tannin, it's high in acid, and so it's really like unflabby. It's quite sinewy on the palate.
Oh, Tony,
And,
I didn't see the start of the show. Can I ask where the name Coriole comes from?
It's made up.
I make a story.
So south of Rome.
Marketing will tell.
Well, there's 3 conflicting stories, which is
Which one's the
odd,
best?
Because we're only 50 years old, so how we don't know how it was named is odd.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of conflict within the family as to how it actually happened. One very boring story is that it was originally the property was bought with the Collets who owned Woodstock. That was
Right.
back in '67. And it was some combination of Collet and Lloyd, but how you get Coriole out of that, I have no idea. So
Yeah.
write that one off. The second story was, I can't quite remember. And the third was that it was a dream. It came to a friend of our grandfather's in a dream. And he was coming to visit their new property. And the next day, the night before, he had this dream that he drove on down to this place he'd never seen and drove into a driveway he'd never seen. And over the front of the driveway, there was this big sign, and it said Coriole.
Mate, if that isn't a marketing story,
It's a very marketing story. Isn't it?
That's my story.
I was thinking, really, if you're not busy tomorrow in marketing, you could make a really good one up. Good, not a bad question from Tony. Better than his first question that he won
Yeah,
with.
that's very true.
And, well, we didn't talk much about the Shiraz because we were
Oh, we didn't even
interrupted.
look at the food. The cheese is
Right,
staring at
we
me.
better do that just quickly, better we? Because what about the secret? You guys are in charge of food. We're in charge of wine, remember? What about the
yeah.
secret pour? Are we going to
one
sneak that
job.
in? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adriana, how
Oh,
we going? Oh, Hayley,
Oysters, 'cause I think they're
any new varieties on the horizon? Oh, that's a great question.
Oh yeah, look, it's something we're experimenting with quite a bit. So recently we have on a few of our vineyards what we call sort of nursery blocks, where we have a row each of kind of different varieties, and just to see how they respond, I guess, in our climate.
Is that classified? Like, you have to tell us you have to kill us? Or?
No.
No? No?
It's just sort of.
Yeah,
It's a bit of
abrupt end to the show.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess in recent times, things like Nero d'Avola, Montepulciano, we've increasing our plantings of.
Yeah.
And then we also have some other white sort of Rhone varieties, so Grenache Blanc. We're experimenting with some Claret and Grenache Gris. So yeah, look, there's always something new that we've got in at some point in the vineyard.
We ask this question a lot to people. If you had your choice next year, what are you going to make to test your winemaking skills to the fullest? Might be able to have a bit of cheese between
Yeah,
the,
that's right.
between the thoughts here, but
That's
Gin?
Gin.
gin. was.
Yeah, we drink a lot of gin. We buy a lot of gin.
Yeah,
Every
Well,
other
we should
winemaker's
make
making gin.
gin.
Why don't we make gin?
because it's too easy.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, real winemaker does. Oh, shit.
Oh, we've got a winner.
We got a winner.
Oh, the winner is
Hayley.
Hayley Bishop. Well done.
What did she win?
The Shiraz.
Full of Shiraz. I guess.
Oh, the Sangiovese, doing an independent. So,
Going back to your question about flagship wines.
Oh, can I answer that question?
Yeah, no, I did mine. This is your your part of it.
Well, this is certainly the flagship wine, without a doubt. Forget what Duncan says. This is, look, it's the most important wine that we produce. It's from a vineyard that we think now was planted in probably 1863, which makes it probably the oldest vineyard in McLaren Valley.
1863.
Well, we were originally told that the earliest vines, were planted here in 1919. And that was all well and good. And
You believed him?
we believe them.
Yeah.
And but then we found, my auntie actually found a reference in the South Australian Register written in 1875 that referenced this property that was known as Clark Hill and talked about the vineyard and talked about its location and talked about its size. And suddenly it's like, oh, hold on, that changes things because as we said, we originally thought it was 1919, but we now know that vines have been planted here from at least the early 1860s. So this, look, for the last 30, 40 years, this has been our top performing block year in, year out. So we call this the New House Shiraz because it is the vineyard in front of the new house, which was up the hill, whereas this is the old
So you
house.
took a lot of time marketing, took a lot of time naming it, the block.
That's not the marketing name.
Oh,
That's just the vineyard name. The
vineyard
marketing
name.
name has been Lloyd Shiraz.
Lloyd Shiraz.
Yeah.
That'd
Lloyd-
been our
Lloyd
surname.
Bishop Shiraz,
So that's an easily defined name,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
So 1989 was the first vintage of this wine that within I guess at that point our father said, look, this vineyard's really special, and it would have proven itself over, a decade to say, look, this deserves its own opportunity to be bottled as a single vineyard wine. And it has been since 1989, bar two vintages, and where it didn't perform for whatever reason. Look, it's a beautiful vineyard down the bottom of the hill there. It's small. It's about 2 acres. And
Have we got a quick picture
Is
of
that
the
the one
vineyard?
we went to?
Yeah, we went and
Yeah.
looked at the down the bottom of the hill.
Here we go. We got it on here?
Just almost, just out of shot.
No, I just had a shot. Put the
But,
drone up
yeah.
high, we would have seen it, but it does look fantastic
See
there,
the
doesn't it?
winery there.
Yeah.
And the reason that this vineyard was planted
There
it
we
is.
go.
Oh, there we go. Look at that.
So you can see an irrigation pipe there, which is very seldom used, but you can see there the width and the depth of the vines, that they were planted in the deepest, richest soil, which back in 150 years ago there was no irrigation, and so if you planted Shiraz, which was a relatively it needs water. It's not like Grenache or Carignan
Thirsty,
that needs that performs in drought conditions. So Shiraz was always planted in the deepest, richest soil. And so that's where it's been planted, we think now, for over 150 years. And it's in great health because it has beautifully established root systems.
As I saw, like all the moisture in the root.
Yeah, it's a beautiful site, and those, we've dug soil pits down, 3, 4, 5 meters, and the roots are still going down. So
Amazing. So hand-picked, obviously, is it?
Yep.
Yep.
All hand
And major love in the winemaking
Yeah,
process.
I handle it all personally.
Yeah.
Don't let any of the cellar hands near it. No.
Yeah, no,
It's
of course not.
it's not actually that much different to the way that that's produced.
It's just really about the block and,
Yeah.
and the grapes.
And about the fruit, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But you just get that beautiful added complexity. It's a lot great sort of savouriness, charcuterie, sort of roasted
Delicious.
spice. And it's not I wouldn't say it's a massive kind of ballbuster wine, but it's all about that quality of tannin.
That was going to be my comment. I was expecting it to be bigger and bolder. I wasn't expecting it to
still
be as
easy to
good,
drink.
to be honest. It's amazingly taste, but without being that overpowering. I'm your lighter wine guy, as much as I get teased about it. But this is going to go in the cellar.
It's sort of, you go full-bodied and you take one step back.
Yeah.
It's just teetering on that edge, and that's
You've done an amazing job.
that's really important. But you know, that wine is not made. We make the wine obviously every year, and then we assess all of our parcels of Shiraz blind. So there'll be 4 or 5 of us that assess in the July and then the February. We look at every single parcel of Shiraz blind.
Do about 30 parcels of Shiraz.
30 parcels
Yep.
of Shiraz, and invariably that vineyard comes up as the top ranked wine.
Yeah.
In 2017 it didn't, so we didn't make a wine.
Yeah.
And so it's okay, the history and the pedigree and everything about that vineyard is fantastic from a marketing point of view, and I don't want to produce twice as much, and we want to produce it every year.
Of course.
But actually we can't. And so it really needs to prove itself, and it does invariably year after year. So that's really important.
Awesome. So, special offer. How lucky are the people that watch this show to get this special offer?
Special offer.
So, receive a 6-pack of Coriole's Fiano.
So I think it's two Fiano,
Ooh,
2
2
Picpoul.
Fianos.
2
Shiraz.
Picpouls.
2?
So 2 of everything we tasted except the Sangiovese and the top of the range. $150 delivered anywhere in Australia except for Weipa.
Except for some really obscure place
Yeah.
that
Except for the Tiwi Islands.
yeah.
Yeah.
Australian Antarctic division.
So my sister,
don't deliver there.
my sister will be. She lives in the Gold Coast. She'll be on. Yeah.
Gold Coast is
Do
fine.
that. Yeah.
Best deals ever
I
on
prefer
SA1
metro
Weekly.
area.
Yeah. I should think south.
That's
Not too far. So if you want to get your winery, or let's say your favourite winery, or if you want to get Coriole on again, which we'd be more than happy to
Oh,
come back,
yeah.
wouldn't we? Then all you have to do is send us an email, hit us up Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, any of the socials. We're on them all, SA Wine Weekly or Achieve Video Marketing. Then you can hit us up and maybe let us know where you'd like us to go next. Speaking of that, where are we going next?
Ooh, we are off to Magpie Springs.
Magpie Springs.
Magpie Springs.
So tell the punters a little bit different.
Yeah,
A little bit different
completely
next
different.
week?
We're going to be a bit of a different show next week. So we're not going live. It's just me and you having a fun day out.
Oh, that could be
I know,
real
I know.
dangerous.
Could be
That
dangerous.
So Magpie Springs, amazing
Magpie
wines.
Springs. And she's an amazing artist.
Yeah, she's
Avril,
world
yeah.
renowned.
Well renowned.
Which she's
so
not,
she's
she's
over.
now.
Her artwork goes out to Europe, America.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Australian
can't wait.
Antarctic
Be a great show.
Division.
Australian Antarctic.
Far Australia Post.
Does Coriole deliver that? I got to say, once again, socials for Coriole. Make sure you follow them, get on them, buy some of their wine. Come down and have a tasting. Say g'day to everyone. Boys, thanks heaps for coming on.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
been a great show.
Been
chat.
awesome.
The wines were awesome. What was your favourite?
Oh, that's hard.
You got
I was
marketing.
going to
think
say,
quick.
yeah,
You got marketing next year. You should know the answer.
the most expensive one.
Yeah.
No,
I've gotta say-
they're all so nice.
I've got to say
Like,
the
I just-
Sangiovese because I'm sitting next to the winemaker.
Sangiovese.
Yeah.
I really like the Fiano.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't
I
argue
liked
with that.
It was delicious. It was like full of flavour.
So next
body.
week we're going to release the video at the same time.
We are.
We are.
7 p.m.
So people who are used to
Yeah,
booking out their
no.
calendar will get it. So 7 p.m. We will release it on Facebook, YouTube, everywhere, LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere. It'll be everywhere on every social you can ever think of. Next week at 7 o'clock, Magpie Springs. Thanks, lads.
Thanks
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
Absolute
Thank you.
pleasure. Holly,
Thank you.
didn't do it. I wasn't the co-host. Anyway, next week,
Enjoying
7
the
o'clock.
wine.
Yeah, tune in.